listening to Motorsport Radio.
Hello and welcome. This is the Superbike Show. My name is Lester and we are back live once again to talk mostly rubbish, to be honest, about whatever else has been happening. Bit of news, bit of MotoGP. Looking forward to BSB and World Superbikes as well, getting the latest. Also from the TT as well, finding out what all the newsworthy stuff from the Isle of Man at the moment. My name is Lester and we are very much live streaming, hopefully, online on Facebook, on the Twitter, on Twitch as well, and our website, motorsport.radio, where you can find a archive of all of the very best interviews that we've done basically forever. 2 years ago to this very day, Kiko Giles made his Motorsport Radio debut on our Monday show, and it was right here talking about bikes, and we were both very much slimmer just 2 years ago, so I just thought I'd share that, because one of them things appeared on my Facebook timelines. This, with the memories that you don't appreciate because you were a lot better looking years ago. Anyway, you may notice, by the way, if you are a visual radio listener, that we have a brand new face on the show. Please welcome Michael Howarth. Hello, Michael.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm well for once. I have a body that's intact, which is quite strange for me, really.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Michael is a friend of the NHS. Every time he tries to ride a bike, he seems to break something, a bone usually. You've had you're pretty bionic at the moment, aren't you? Yeah, I've had my fair share of injuries, to be fair. I think I had the shortest comeback in BSB history, which lasted all of about a lap and a half at Alton Park in 2016, and consequently from that I've spent the last 2 years or so out with injury because I broke my hip, and it wasn't so straightforward. They tried to save it for about a year and a half with different kind of operations using stem cells and took bone out of my pelvis and things like that, and it decided it wasn't going to have it, and the bone died, so I've actually ended up with a new hip at Christmas. Jesus. My Christmas present was a new hip this year. And then everything was looking good to maybe come and try and do a spot of racing again, and the first day off my crutches back in the gym, after 8 weeks off, I fell down the stairs and broke my arm, so that set me back another 8 weeks. We shouldn't laugh, but it does sound pretty comical. It does sound pretty comical, yeah, falling down the steps. So, yeah, you've got a stair lift installed, I'm trusting, so there's no more calamities or anything.
Yeah, well, I just have a carer now. I have a carer that helps me about.
Fair enough. Yeah, well, excellent. All right, so, and also, by the way, Liam Hodgins, regular Motorsport Radio presenter, is live just about from Scotland, something that always needs to be mentioned for no apparent reason. Hello, good evening, Liam.
Good evening, Lester. I mean, if my internet goes down, you know it's one thing and one thing only. It's because my internet is horrible up here, so I wasn't going
to mention the Scottish internet.
AOL dial-up. That's what I'm going through right now.
Fair enough. That's not bad. Anyway, so, now we did tease some parts of social media before we came on air, just to say that Michael was coming on with a big announcement, because he has got, well, he's got something sort of he's got some type of announcement kind of like brewing, but it's not to be announced tonight on the show, I don't think anyway, but you are working on something, mostly a comeback. I suppose. Yeah. That's the long and short is that's what I'm working on. The NHS, to be fair, tried getting me in to have my hip replaced as soon as possible at the end of last year, and it just worked out that the timing I wasn't gonna be fit in time to come back this year. So I tried doing a couple of other things and maybe trying to get another rider involved, and it didn't happen. So I just thought, right, we'll sit this year out completely. Work towards doing something next year. In what capacity yet, I don't really know, because we're still mulling it over. And in the meantime, through that, I've been working on opening my own bike shop in sunny Todmorden, in Yorkshire, God's country. That's as you say. The long and short of it is that you are looking to make a comeback, and maybe for next year, next season. Is that almost?
Yeah. I'm like I said, I got back in the gym as soon as I could. I even stayed awake through my operation. If you find me on my Facebook, I actually videoed the operation of them doing my hip. They kept me awake for it, which was lovely. Listening to all the banging and clanging and cutting my hip out, it was something else. So yeah, all updates will be on there. And like I say, hopefully I'll be out riding in some capacity next year somehow, because I'm not ready to give up yet.
If anybody is a friend of Michael Howarth on Facebook, you might just want to be careful with what videos you do watch. What stuff you do consume of stuff, because I think I accidentally clicked on something and it turned out to be your half naked body, the wrong half, and then there was other thing. But anyway, I found an interesting video that I was going to play. Maybe I'll play it later. Of you reviewing the then brand new Greg's pasty. Sausage rolls, the vegan ones.
The vegan sausage roll, yeah.
And I only mention that just because we had quite a debate on the BSB and fans Facebook group, which a lot of people tuned in on there about. We posted something on the Motorsport Radio page, which was found from another touring car page of some guy who bought a Silverstone breakfast, and it was absolutely. Well, according to some of the comments, anyway, it was shocking. I'm not going to go too much into some of the comments, but I'll leave that to you. And I just thought it was nice that you do your own reviews now and again. Maybe you should do a couple more of those types of things.
I saw that. I saw that picture that you're on about on your Facebook. It didn't even come on a plate. It was on a tray and a piece of paper. Yeah. But I was still about £8 odd for that breakfast. Did you see it?
We'll try and put a picture up later if I can import that. But. Yeah,
let's not, please.
We are running sort of a I don't know. It's open to submissions. A rate my motorsport plate. By the way, if anyone's experienced either.
I mean,
go on.
It's covered in mushrooms, so I guess a big fat 0 for me.
Oh, you don't like okay, fine.
No,
I have no. There's no place in my life with mushrooms. I have no place in my life. Horrible things.
Oh, I just don't get them. How can you have a fungus on your plate?
Anyway, this is Motorsport Radio.
What do they grow out of?
Nature, apparently. Right. Anyway, back to bikes. Before Kiko's tuned in. I know he is for a fact. I know full well he is, and he loves conversations like this. But anyway, back to bikes, and we are going to talk about bikes. Also, later in the show, we will be chatting to young rider Trystan Finocchiaro, who is racing this year in, I think he's doing a wildcard ride at the Donington World Superbikes round in Supersport 300, I think I probably got that wrong, but also he's racing in the junior Supersport as well this year in the BSB paddock. So having a chat with him a bit later on, and that's coming up in about an hour from now. But first, bikes, promise you, MotoGP and the very latest news then, and Liam, Petrucci done it.
Oh, yeah, about time. Everyone's been willing him on for ages, it feels like. The man that came from the European Superstock 1000 class from 2011, missed out in the championship and he managed to bag himself his first race win since Portimao 2011, so it's been a long time coming. Now, I do remember him racing the Ioda bike back in 2012, and Casey Stoner at Mugello came flying past him and just said on Twitter later on that day, I don't know how you managed to ride that bike. So Danilo Petrucci has come through the hard way basically, and just managed to work himself all the way up to the factory Ducati team, and he bagged himself a race win, which is a very popular win around the paddock. His first race win, his 8th podium, and he becomes the second Italian rider to win an Italian Grand Prix on an Italian bike. Andrea Dovizioso done it for the first time 2 years ago, so amazing by him, and I think we could all speak for everyone here at Motorsport Radio that everyone here is pleased for him as well. Now that win has probably bagged him the Ducati ride for 2020 as well. On top of that, Jack Miller did crash at a 5th place when he was trying to line up Alex Rins for a manoeuvre further around the lap with a few laps to go. So on top of that, it looks like Petrucci will be signed for 2020. I don't want to speculate too much, but he's going the right way around it to try and get himself a new contract. And on top of that, he has said that he will try everything in his power to try and help Andrea Dovizioso to win the 2019 World Championship. take off Marc Marquez for the first time since Jorge Lorenzo done it in 2015. So he's definitely going the right way about it. If it can help Andrea Dovizioso win the 2019 championship, they'll go a long way to keeping him on the good side with Ducati. But I don't know why he's speaking about it so early on in the season, because he's now only 33 points behind Marc Marquez in the championship. If Marc Marquez has a bad race, if Dovizioso has a bad race, he could be well within championship contention now that he's got that monkey off the back. And watching Petrucci ride at Mugello, he looked in such good form, especially when he was leading the race. Was pulling away right in the twisty section of track that Ducati shouldn't really be that great compared to the Honda, and he was formidable. So you could see lots of great things coming from Danilo Petrucci now that he's got that win off his back. And Marc Marquez, his sole priority this weekend was to beat Andrea Dovizioso, which he'd done. So he extended his championship by an extra 4 points, took up to 12. So he knew that Mugello wasn't going to be a good track for him. He's only won once in the MotoGP class back in 2014, and he only won once back in 2011 in Moto2.
And you said he was going to win again this weekend.
Yeah. Well, at least he didn't fall off from the lead this time. So, hey, I'm not that bad. So I only seem to predict Lewis Hamilton wins in Formula 1, but when it comes to Marc Marquez, sorry, Mark. Every time I predict you win, you're always never going to win. So, apologies. The crowd mainly turned out to see one man and one man only. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Ducati riders of Petrucci and Dovizioso. It was the doctor, Valentino Rossi, and he had one of the worst, if not the worst weekend I have ever seen him have. Now, he qualified 18th in the grid, which is his worst qualifying position since Assen 2006. Now, he cracked his left wrist and his right ankle that weekend after he crashed in practice.
Oh, heck.
Before the Gert Turner chicane at Assen, tumbled himself through the gravel trap. And yeah, understandably, he qualified second last that day, but this weekend, he just couldn't find the setup. He wasn't fast enough by his own admission. He struggled. Admittedly, his fate was sealed through free practice 3 when he was on a faster lap. He was going to end up in the top 6, and coming through the Biandetti chicane, he had a bit of a tank slapper and it knocked his pads backwards. So going into Bicini, the last corner, he ran
knocked his
tank slapper, his brake pads.
Oh, right, okay.
What do you think I said?
Pants.
His pants. He might have knocked his pants backwards.
It sounded like you said that. I don't know.
It's a bit like that same when I said the Woolworths. What was it? The pick and mix, and you thought I said something else.
Yeah. Anyway.
The Willies. Right. So yeah, he knocked his brake pads back, so he ran off at the Bicini corner and through the gravel trap. So yeah, he had to go through Q1, didn't make it out of Q1, and basically tagged into the back of Johan Mir earlier on in the race, and then crashed a couple of laps later after he was the fastest rider on track the lap before. So he had the pace in the race a little bit, but yeah, didn't have a good weekend. So Valentino Rossi has conceded the fact that Yamaha seems to have a mid-season slump, which has happened the last couple of years and has happened again this one. So Jorge Lorenzo, the HRC rider, has been struggling, hasn't finished inside the top 10 since Austria 2018, and he's only got a handful of points to his name, and he's been sent off to Japan, the HRC headquarters, so Alberto Puig says, to try and work directly with the Japanese mechanics and engineers to try and come up with a solution to try and find more speed from him and the bike. So going to work on riding positions, feeling of the bike, so he could come back at Catalonia a completely different rider, and we might actually see him finish inside the top 10, which will be at least a step in the right direction. And unfortunately, Fabio Quartararo slumped back through the field during the race, and it's come out in the last day or two that he had to go off and get arm pump surgery. So he was so if anyone doesn't really know what arm pump is, I'm maybe sure. Yeah, it is. Maybe Michael can actually tell us how bad it is.
Well, yeah, I've had the operation on my right arm, down there, on the inside and outside, and it's basically just your muscle. Your muscle is in a sack, and when it builds up, your muscle gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and that's what causes the actual arm pump and the struggle. So the operation is quite simple. They just slice your arm open. Mine was quite a severe one, so they had to take it all the way, and they just cut the sack open and stitch you back up. It really is. It's a very simple operation.
Well, the way you say it sounds really, really painful. Someone cutting your sack open.
That's one thing I've done, and I have no intentions of getting cut open. No,
there's still time yet.
Yeah.
Don't
Well,
worry.
there is for me.
Leave it dangling.
But yeah, so anyway, yeah, Fabio's had an arm pump operation. I think he was posting the usual hospital bed picture of him resting and stuff and smiling and whatnot.
He wasn't doing what Michael was doing, which was actually videoing himself during the operation, which is good for us all if we're especially tucking into our dinner that night, if it was spaghetti bolognese or something, which wouldn't be the best sight. But yeah, he's planning to come back for Catalonia, so it's not too bad, so he should be back fighting fit. But he said that he'd been starting to feel it around Qatar time. It sort of come to head in Austin a little bit, over Le Mans as well, and in Mugello it became too much because of the hard braking and everything around that circuit. And finally, Charles Leclerc, the Formula 1 driver, was at Mugello at the weekend, and he is now one of many Formula 1 drivers that now fancies a go of a MotoGP bike. So, yeah, he's someone that maybe we can get Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen to all race a MotoGP bike. It would be a great laugh to see how well they do.
Well, you've got to remember, of course, Charles Leclerc, Ferrari driver, comes out and says at Mugello on the grid that he'd like to have a go on a MotoGP bike. Same thing, when Lewis Hamilton pops up, it's always at like his sponsor's home track, for example, or like the Mercedes, or something. It's always to do. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I'm just being a bit skeptical about it, but.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, but could you imagine trying to line up at least 10 Formula 1 drivers in a 10-lap MotoGP race? That'd be great to watch. It'd be hilarious.
I can only imagine it, because that's all it will be, just imagination. But
you never know.
I think that they're going to chuck Lewis Hamilton on a Yamaha at some point, aren't they? I think that's going to happen.
Well, he said he wants to have a proper run out, maybe in like World Superbikes or something. No, that's probably, he's not up to that.
Oh no, no! I mean, he did the track day at Reth earlier on this year, didn't he? And he had Alex Lowe's taking him round and Van der Mark, and apparently he's no slouch, but he's certainly not. I would imagine he's only club racer type speed at the minute, but they'll do it for promotion, won't they, between Petronas. They still have a hand in Formula 1, and they have the big sponsor in MotoGP, so I think they'll end up chucking him on a MotoGP bike somewhere along the lines this year.
Why not? If you tuned in, and you're definitely not, any Formula 1 driver, head over to, I don't know, No Limits, have a go on their championship. Why not? That'd be good.
Yeah.
Perfect fit, I think.
I was thinking maybe Lewis Hamilton will probably get the championship wrapped up in August, so just take him over to Malaysia for the penultimate round, stick him on the Petronas Yamaha there and see how he goes.
Yeah, it's that easy. It's that easy.
Well,
he'll probably lap about 15 seconds off the pace, but you never know. It'll be a big wake-up call.
Yeah.
So, if you think that F1 Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc maybe wasn't just saying nice things in front of the camera just because it was at Mugello, and he actually is probably going to dive on a bike and do something semi-competitive, and let us know. But if you're of the same opinion as me, that it was just a bit of just nice PR, it's just what people say when they're supposed to say nice things and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
I was going to say that seems to be a wrap for the MotoGP side of it at the moment.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so, yeah. I thought I'd end it in Formula 1. Why not? Because that's what we tend to do here.
Oh, yeah.
Always in a wee Formula 1. But if we want to move over to Moto 2, we can do that.
Although, just before we dive straight into Moto 2, a couple of comments, because we are live on tonight's show. And if you tuned in to us and we're not live, then we were live when we were. Usually on a Thursday, even though we were on a Wednesday and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, we've had a couple of comments saying, Michael Howarth is a very funny guy, and it will be great to see him back on the track where he belongs.
Instead of the back of an ambulance where I normally am. I spent more time in 2016 in an airmed helicopter than I did on track. And it was only a 12-minute air travel journey. How bad's that? The king of comebacks. Just before you jump into Moto 2, though, I think it's interesting that there was a lot of speculation about Jack Miller going to the factory team next year. And everyone's saying that Petrucci's got a fight on his hands, this, that, and the other, and the way he approached it. But what you've got to remember is, and I spoke to Scott Redding's uncle, Darryl, yesterday about this, just to confirm. If you remember a couple of years ago when Scott and Petrucci were in the Pramac team, when they said to both those riders, it's now a fight for you two to get one of you two to get the factory bike next year. Petrucci went out and he won, and he got the factory bike for the year after. So Petrucci's not someone that you're going to be able to say things about in the press and it affect him. It seems to fire him up more. He's one of them riders that works really well under pressure, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree, because when Jack Miller was, all the talk was around him, it would seem to be him that was come to the fore, and Petrucci just seemed to work really hard at it. And he's now looking like, it looks like Jack Miller was the one that was under pressure, especially at Mugello. That's why he made that mistake, because I feel like there was a lot of desperation in his moves up the inside of Petrucci, trying to push everyone right, trying to get in front of Petrucci, especially as soon as Danilo got past him. So it's great to see Danilo do this, but it's a bit of a shame to see Jack Miller not being able to move up to the factory team. But according to Jack Miller, he'll be very happy to stay at Pramac because he's got a cushy we deal there.
Yeah, and they're up in the support again next year for Pramac, aren't they? They're going to have two 2020 bikes. I think they're going to get a little bit more help from the factory side of the team are coming across and stuff with him. So yeah, I don't think it's any detriment to Jack to stay there really, and build on that a bit. I also read somewhere today about Zarco maybe going to World Superbikes next year in the factory Honda team.
Well, he's not enjoying life much at the moment, is he? So,
no,
possibly.
No, I know the HRC. I'm sure when you come to World Superbikes, you might want about this, but HRC are taking over the full operation next year. It won't be Marawaki and Altea and whatever's going on now. It'll be a full HRC effort. So, it would make sense if they got someone like Zarco in that is that smooth, that could go and win World Superbikes for them.
But there again, they want someone who's quick as well.
Test wheel this year, haven't they? So.
Yeah, well, Zarco is extremely quick. The unfortunate thing is he's just not gelled with that KTM this year. And Paul Espargaro they brought Zarco in to be the one to take them to this world championship that they're dreaming of. And Paul Espargaro, a bit like Petrucci, just seems so fired up. And he's now stepped up his game. He's taken it into Q2 all the time, well inside the top 10. I was watching him lower down fighting against Jorge Lorenzo for a while during Mugello, and he got in front of Lorenzo and then just seemed to gap him 10th by 10th over the laps, and he put in a really smart ride, very consistent ride, and yeah, it's really putting Zarco under pressure because Zarco was outside the points, or at least finished 15th in Mugello, which is not good, especially if your teammates beating you, and of course Miguel Oliveira is beating you as well. Yeah,
it's it just shows what as the first bike to ride in MotoGP, how easy that Yamaha is to ride, if there's such thing as an easy MotoGP bike to ride, of course. But that bike definitely made Zarco look very good, and he struggled. I mean, at one time last year they were talking about him being the rider that was going to go to Honda to replace Pedrosa, and I don't think he'd have fared any better there as he is doing on the KTM, because they're quite a similar style of motorcycle, the way in which they need to be ridden. So yeah, Zarco, it might not be a bad move for him, and if he's happy and he wants to run at the front of World Superbikes is where it's at, then I don't see a problem with him going, really.
Watch this space, because the rumours are that that's what he's doing, and maybe if he's enjoying life, if he's a bit more competitive, if he has a bit more, like you suggest, a bit more sort of factory backing, then the results might sort of go his way ultimately in World Superbikes. But he wouldn't be the last or even the first person to jump across, and might even make World Superbikes a bit more competitive if he does that. Who knows? But anyway, yes, back to GP, and Liam, Moto 2 at the moment is. Yeah, it's consistent, I would say. I'm trying to think of good things to say. I mean, I did watch most of the race, but I kind of it didn't capture my attention. I was sort of off doing other things and cleaning the house and stuff. But yeah, and it was there. It was on.
I feel like this is the first Moto 2 race I've watched from start to finish, because I weirdly found it quite interesting how Tom Sluty, who's the one that usually starts off slow and then works his way forward, is the one that started off fast and worked his way backwards this one. And Alex Marquez, who's the complete opposite, seems to start off really strong and work his way backwards. And Mugello started off, he seems to be a little bit different right now, Alex Marquez, in the last couple of races, where he's been quite calm and consistent, and then works his way up, and then 10th after 10th after lap, when he got to the front, he just eased away and won the race. But what should have been about 3 seconds was just under 2 seconds over Luca Marini. But Alex Marquez is now being touted, or had been touted, for the Pramac ride next year, and there'd been a lot of talk on that. That probably won't happen now, because Jack Miller will most likely be staying at Pramac, and we know Bagnaia's got a 2-year contract, and he's definitely getting a GP20 bike next year. So Alex Marquez, his first back-to-back win since Catalonia and Assen way back in 2014 in the Moto3 class, when he actually won the championship. So it's looking good for Marquez this year. He's doing very well. So the younger Marquez could be on his way towards the World Championship in 2019, or if he doesn't do that, he might still make his way into MotoGP next season. So he's now only 2 points behind championship leader Lorenzo Baldassarri, and there's still plenty of rounds still to go. If Baldassarri keeps messing up where he either wins a race or crashes, then who knows what might happen.
Who knows indeed. Michael, your thoughts on Moto2 at the moment? Marquez is getting better, or he's getting back to what he should be maybe doing, I think.
He took his time in Moto3 to win that World Championship, didn't it? And he always just gets compared to his brother. So he's finally gelled with the bike this year, with the Triumph engine. And he does look like the rider of old from Moto3. He looks confident, he looks happy, and the results are showing. It's like you said, with him probably not going to Pramac now next year, it couldn't really have been a worse year to win the Moto2 title this year, because it doesn't look like there's going to be any decent seats to go to next year, unless if another rider wins, then they may end up going to Aventia or something like that, Aventia Ducati, but there's going to be no top seats available at all. Unless, if Zarco does leave and gets out of his contract at the end of this year. Do you think Alex Marquez would really want to go to KTM for his first year in MotoGP? I can't see it myself.
It could be it could go to the Tech 3 team, if anything, because that time with Red Bull. So Miguel Oliveira might move up to the top team. There could be an Aprilia ride opening up, because Aprilia seem to be growing ever more unhappy with Andrea Iannone, as Alicia Spargo keeps trying to put in as many good performances with that bike, and Iannone qualified last for Mugello, so that's not looking good on him at the moment. So there could be maybe that place opening up. Aventia, as you said, I've heard that potentially Carol Abraham might be out of a ride by the end of the season. If Bruno gets pulled off the calendar, then there won't be any funding on it in that team from Carol Abraham. So Aventia Ducati could be another avenue to go into.
Yeah, it's what support they get as opposed to what spec they get if they go to Aventia. They will have a 19 bike, because I think they're only ever going to stay 1 year behind now, aren't they, Ducati? Instead of going like they had a 16 and a 17 and an 18. I know that everyone's on 18s now. So, I'm sure with the name he will get the support, more support than one of the other riders if they won it, perhaps. But it'll be interesting. But I don't see any doors opening up for any other rider really if they win the Moto2 title this year. I think people will be more looking for a different rider to, like you say, to fill the Carol Abraham seat. It'd be a shame to lose Bruno, though. Really, it would be a shame. Like you said, that's what's kept Carol in the championship for the last few years.
Yeah, so it would be a shame, because he's one of those riders that everyone likes to see punch above his weight, and every so often he does that. So yeah, it'd be a massive shame to lose Bruno and of course Carol Abraham. Yeah,
and his teammate, Rabat, he started getting up to pace again this weekend. You've got to remember what a horrible injury he had last year. And I was commentating at MotoGP at Silverstone with Fred Clark when he had the accident. I don't think people really appreciate just how bad an accident that was. So he does, it's taking his time to get up to speed this year. He's been off the radar a little bit, but he seemed to click a bit at Mugello, and we seem to start seeing the best of him, because he's a very underrated rider.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and he's got to remember, a few years ago he won the Moto2 title along with Marc Marquez and Alex Marquez winning their championships, which is great to see. And I love watching Tito Rabat. Is the try hard that he's the grinder. It's a bit like Patricia in a way, where he's just worked his way up, and from a rider that everyone thought was going nowhere, he proved himself to be a world champion, and for someone to finish inside the top 10 quite consistently before his accident last year. So I would love to see Tito Rabat remain in the class for another few seasons.
Yeah. Because it will be one of them that he will get that one result in that strange race that's a bit cold or a bit wet or something. It could be there. And to be fair, there's no one works harder than Tito, because I think he's at Almeria every single day, pretty much on track and riding with his Ducati and whatever. And the only thing he should do is stick to riding and not try and design in track, because I've heard the one that he designed at Almeria is not so cracking. It's not so
I've heard exactly the same. I think he's got a caravan there or something like that, so he just seems to live at the circuit and goes out riding every day when he's not racing a MotoGP bike.
Yeah, multi-millionaire gypsy, yeah.
Not wrong with staying at caravans, I'll tell you, at circuits. or even in the back of your van, or in the back of your car, or even in a tent on the floor.
Oh, I've done the back of the van thing one very, very cold wintry morning at Knockhill. Snowing and everything. Yeah, it felt like, I think it was -10. It felt like -100.
Yeah, so that basically, and I'll be enjoying the privilege of staying in the back of a vehicle this weekend, as I'm off to Whitby for the some motocross event at Whitby. I won't go into too many details because I don't know that much about motocross. So. But that's where it'll be.
They go over jumps and they race in mud, so that's all you need to know.
Yeah, lots of mud, basically. Yeah, basically. Even when it's like hot and dry, it's still welly. Just before we move on, we have a couple of comments that have flooded in on the Motorsport Radio Facebook. Hello and welcome if you're tuned in live. Corinne says, "What is Michael drying on his radiator behind him?"
Down to mind his own business.
It looks like maybe a towel or something, or
it's a towel. Tell him happy 50th birthday as well. It was his birthday the other day. I know.
Well, you can tell him yourself. He's tuned in.
Well, happy birthday, Corinne. And I wish I could be at your party this weekend, but unfortunately, I've got a life, and I'd rather eat my own feet than come to your party. You won't get.
Fantastic stuff. He also asked as well, how do you, I don't know if this is an in-joke, how do I change an inline 4 to a V-twin for 50 quid and still have enough for 4 Stellas?
Yes, I have absolutely no idea what he's barking on about there at all.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Well, I thought maybe
his statements like that's half the reason why I won't go to his birthday party this weekend, because for a 50-year-old, it will be absolute carnage. I will imagine they'll be dancing around in their undies at 3 o'clock in the morning, diving in and out of jacuzzis and all sorts. So
well, he's also accusing you of drying your undies on the radiator, but
it's me towel.
I thought it was a towel. It looked like a towel. Probably his undies are underneath there, maybe. Also, I don't know if we did this comment earlier, but Stephen said, good luck with the full recovery. I'm presuming this is for you. Michael said, get back to the track. And a question earlier on, I think going back to MotoGP, from Terry. Hello, good evening, Terry. Thanks for tuning in. Any news on Cal?
Cal Crutchlow, as in what?
Well, that was the question. Any news on Cal? Do we have any news? Have I missed any news? Probably have, to be honest. Has anything happened with Cal? Maybe Terry, you might know more than we do.
All I know is he had his worst weekend of the season at Mugello, but that's about it.
Yeah, why bring that up, Terry? Why bother with that? You're just rubbing his nose, isn't it?
You may know something that we don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, it is possible. Lots of people do know more than me.
It's again, it takes a lot of criticism off mostly the British people, really, Cal. Mostly because he's misunderstood, because he's an extremely funny guy. And when you walk in the paddock at MotoGP, you see how much he is loved by the people there. But the way he comes across sometimes on TV, he's having an in-joke with the people that are interviewing rather than being so corporate. So he comes across as arrogant, and that's really not Cal. He's absolutely, he's one of the funniest guys I've ever met, and he's mad as a box of frogs. But I can't see him going anywhere for the next couple of years. I think it'll be Cal that retires rather than HRC retire Cal. I know when he's done at LCR, I don't think he'll go anywhere else, and I don't think he'll want to. I think his family life will take over and his cycling.
He's doing all right at the moment, though. I mean, he's not doing badly.
He's there to do the job that the HRC want him to do, and they're more than happy with him. His feedback that he gives is incredible. And at the minute they're struggling because Lorenzo's just not gelling with the bike yet. But again, that'll come. Everyone wrote him off at Ducati, and then he won. Lorenzo will come back. There's no two ways about it. He's one of the greatest riders of all time. Lorenzo. He's just he come on, he is. It's
like the Fernando Alonso argument I always get dragged into. I mean, yes, just because you was a good rider or driver or whatever, just because you were a champion and you were fantastic, it doesn't mean that you still are.
I think you'll eat your words with that one, Lester.
I'm not saying either way, but I'm just saying I'm always cautious of people always just saying like years down the line after someone's won something and it's years after that they're still at that top level. I think that sometimes maybe
if he wouldn't have jumped ships or been kicked, whichever way you look at it from Ducati, do you not think Lorenzo would have been a title contender this year with them?
Oh, absolutely.
But he did move, didn't he? So, yeah. Obviously, they weren't happy. They didn't see the vision, did they? So,
well, when he jumped ship, Ducati wanted him to. That was before he won his race, and then all of a sudden he won his race.
He left before he was pushed, didn't he?
Yeah. I think there was someone holding the door open for him so that he could kind of get out of there. We're not going to stop you if you want to go chasing something else. But
so if they thought
as he walked out the door, there might have been a kick up his backside, so might have just given him a little bit of a push. But
yeah,
he had nothing, did it? It was really strange at one point where he had nothing, and he was going to be one of the Petronas riders. They were in big talks with him at one point.
As I say, it goes back. It's a very similar scenario to. Sorry to keep mentioning Formula One, but Fernando Alonso. You've got someone who was absolutely brilliant, on top of the world, one of the world's finest athletes and racers, but you've got a situation where you said for a small amount of time, nobody actually wanted him. Nobody actually wanted, and he was sort of stuck for somewhere to go. And
well, that's what we thought. But he opened conversation with Alberto Puig before Mugello last year and said that he's not happy at Ducati and he wanted to come to Honda. So they had a meeting, they agreed terms, and before the Mugello weekend, they agreed the terms for Lorenzo to go to Honda. And it came out after Mugello that he was going to Honda after he won the race. And by that point, it already started that he was going off to Honda, and then this role started happening with him at Ducati. Unfortunately, he got injured after Austria last year, and he never really recovered from that. You got to remember Thailand, his bike seized, which was just horrendous for his confidence as well as his injuries. And I would give him a bit of time. He's away off to Japan to work on the bike, his understanding of it with the engineers over there. Lorenzo, I will predict this, will win a race before the end of the season.
God. Yeah. So he's not going to win anything then?
Yeah.
He will.
Because you just jinxed him.
Every time Kianari got sent back to Japan from British Championships, he sent him back, he put a chip in the back of his neck and sent him back, and he was winning again. So it might be what happens to Lorenzo. You never know. Them guys at HRC are clever boys, and if he's going to work directly with them to sort his bike out, then, like you say, I think he'll win a race before the end of this season. Definitely.
For the record, I do like Lorenzo, and I do hope he will do as good as he is expected and that everyone thinks he will do. He did say on BT Sport, rather revealing interview, I think it was just, I think it was on the qualifying day on Saturday, he did say that because he's struggling to get to grips with the bike after just, a handful of races, and that actually Crutchlow is probably... He's probably on par. That's who he's aiming for in terms of performance to at least beat, because he thinks. I'm trying not to put words into his mouth. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but he did look up to Cal as being almost like the benchmark rider for him at the moment. So, and that's something that Chris Howells picks up as well. He's been in touch. Hello, good evening, Chris. He says Cal is still doing better than Lorenzo at the moment. So,
yes. You got to remember, Cal Crutchlow has been on that bike for 5 seasons now, and he's been there through the development stage. Basically, HRC have used Cal Crutchlow for a number of seasons to develop that bike, because you might remember Marc Marquez has a completely different style to absolutely everyone else in MotoGP. And Danny Pedrosa was completely different as well. He was on the other end of the spectrum. So light, so he had to create his own riding style that didn't suit the normal rider, which Cal Crutchlow is classed as a normal rider with a normal style. And so Lorenzo can come under that bracket more so than Danny or Marquez can. So Crutchlow does have a lot more experience on the bike. Crutchlow didn't do amazingly well. I know he picked up a podium in his first season at Argentina on the Honda, but he was very inconsistent. He was either near the front or very near the back. Jorge Lorenzo is one of those riders that won't be amazingly fast if he's not comfortable with the bike. He will work towards that, just like he did with Ducati. He was even at the start of 2018, he was down at the back, and then all of a sudden, when he came to Mugello, as soon as they got the bike to his liking, he was winning races again.
Yeah, I agree. And initially, when they brought Cal into given the HRC role, and they took him on paying his wages rather than Lucio Cecchinello, Cal was developing a bike that they were trying to make more rideable for the customer teams, which would have been Mark BDS and stuff at the time, because there was going to be a lot more customer Hondas. Now Cal's role has changed slightly now, because the two Hondas gone off the grid, so now they're just trying to get a package together. Nakagami's doing really well on his. So Cal's role now will be to help Lorenzo as much as he can, and that's what I'm guessing. Marquez is an alien that's in a world of his own and he will take Cal's feedback on board, but I think Cal's role has changed within HRC now, because they're not trying to make a bike that they can sell to another team to win, because he's on essentially a factory bike, and there's only one non-factory kind of entry in MotoGP for Honda now. So yeah, Cal's role's changed a bit, I think.
Okay, just before we move on, talk about other racing as well. Lynn Bain's been on. Hello, good evening. And a question for you, Michael. Says, are you missing not being at the TT this year?
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about it in depth a little bit later about the TT and stuff, but with the weather the way it's been, no. So I'm quite happy being at home trying to get this workshop off the ground and stuff this year, no. But I will come next year. I will be back next year, and I will bring the sunshine with me, I think.
Okay, that's a deal, I suppose. Because was you also not there last year as well?
I was there last year.
All right.
I was there from the Wednesday to the Saturday of race week. And I'm not going to lie, I landed on the plane, I walked into Monsters Hospitality, and then I came home on Saturday morning. That's as much as I really remember. Giving a Yorkshireman free beer is not a good idea. So I was away with the fairies. I was literally away with the fairies in the Isle of Man.
And then I woke up in Ukraine the next morning, or something, or wherever, or something. Anyway, see what happens with the TT. Probably talk a bit about that later in the show as well. Moto 3, not talked about that yet, Liam, but it was another good race.
Another good race, Lester. It was a great race once again. To be fair, I was thinking this during the race. Moto 3 races are so great. Can even be considered classics anymore? They're all just classics.
I think we need a really boring race just to emphasise how great the normal great races are.
Yeah.
Because if we say that every race is like the same amount of brilliance, then we all sort of get used to it. And then we're just like, it was a standard,
There was a scene halfway through the race where going down the main straight, there was like 7 riders abreast, and I was like, this is incredible.
We consider that normal, though, for Moto 3, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But you just look at it and go, I just can't believe not everyone in the world is watching Moto 3. How can anyone be missing how amazing this action is? Best class in the world. I love it to bits. And I kind of wish they had 2 races a weekend. It's just that great. I know I'm asking for too much now, but it was Tony Arbolino who picked up his first ever race win. And it makes him the 6th different winner of the 2019 season and the 11th different winner in as many races. So the Moto3 World Championship is wide open right now. Aaron Canet, who is still the championship leader, finished down in 7th. So you had Nicola Antonelli, Tony Arbolino making their way through the field again, up towards the front and closing the gap. So Lorenzo Dalla Porta finished second, even though he looked like the man that was odds on to win the race. From turn 1, San Donato, right through to Bicini, he looked like the fastest guy through that section of track. It was only down the pit straight with the massive slipstream in Moto3 that everyone caught back up with him again and seemed to ruffle his feathers a little bit. But Lorenzo Della Porta, he's really starting to show his worth in this 2019 season. And I know Aaron Canet is still leading the championship, but he looks like the rider that they're going to have to try and beat to win the 2019 World Championship. And it was unfortunately a horrible day for Romano Fenati. Once again, he went down. And it's just not looking like the return that we all thought Romano Fenati would have.
Did we think he'd have a good return? Because I remember the first show of the season doing this, and we were really just expecting him to... we were all just watching him just to see who was going to attack next, to be honest, weren't we?
Yeah, but he hasn't. It seems to be him getting caught up in other people's accidents, not him causing them or trying to cause them, if you know what I mean. But it's a bit of a shame because Romano Fenati being up the front does cause its own drama and own entertainment in itself. So, yeah, Romano Fenati, I would probably say, is nearly out of this championship. I know there's Aaron Canet in first half 6 rounds only got 83 points, but he's still not scored a podium yet, Fenati, and he's not looking like he's going to score one anytime soon.
Yeah, it looks like he's in the race. I mean, he's had a few good qualifying things, and you've seen him in free practice where he's done well.
Yeah, he's got the pace.
Yeah, he's got the pace, and I think he's too busy trying to keep his nose clean because he's terrified of the backlash if anything happens. If he takes a rider out, even if it's an accident, everyone's going to go mental. And I was a bit advocate for him last year when he'd done what he'd done, and I said, get him back, bring him back. Dorna went about it the right way. They helped him. They sorted him out with anger management. None of the riders in the classes anywhere said they didn't want him back in. So,
well, he was banned for life once already.
It was, yeah. And what he did was terrible. But at the end of the day, nobody did get hurt. If someone did get hurt, I would have looked at it completely differently. But luckily, nobody did. Dorna got behind him, and the public outcry was far worse than anything else that happened from Dorna. The sanctions they put on him, and not a single rider didn't want him in the paddock. Nobody said, I don't want him back in that paddock. You know, there were some people really got behind him, and I was one of them that said, I think he deserves another chance. You know, he's been an idiot before.
Oh, yeah, a couple of times.
That a lot of other riders have. You know, people have kicked out other riders and been silly. And what he did was, it was incredibly stupid, but he hadn't done anything really bad before that. Yes, he'd had the fallout with Rossi's team, so that was another thing where he was chucked in the limelight, and it was, oh, well, if Rossi's men don't like him because he's kicking off with everyone, then he must be a bad apple. I think that's where most of it come from.
Was he the one who also turned someone's bike off as well at one point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not a real racer if you've not done that sometime in your career.
to be fair, I remember reading lots of autobiographies, and Matt Oxley, for one, I remember reading a Twitter post from him once that he said that going down the straight out the back of Le Mans, people would be like leaning over and trying to turn each other's bikes off. So I thought that was quite funny to hear about that. So now that it's more public, then it's going to, obviously, people are going to see it a lot more, and people are going to be against Romano Fenati acting in that way.
Maybe. I mean, Nicole Canepa did it, didn't they, to somebody, and they actually come off. I thought it was a race, but I think it ended up being a track day or something. The guy was being a fool, and Canepa pulled alongside him on the straight and pulled his front brake and took him out. And he were getting done for all sorts. Canepa, I don't know what actually turned up, how the court case turned out, but he's still riding, and no one's saying, oh, because Canepa pulled someone's front brake, he should never race again, because it wasn't made a big thing of, because it wasn't in a big race. So,
well, maybe I don't know. Maybe you got a point in that we were all just sort of expecting Fenati to. I certainly was anyway. Watching and thinking, oh, what's he going to do now? What's he going to do next? Sort of thing.
Yeah. You know, and I completely agree with Michael on that one, because we've said at the start of the year where we don't think he won't get involved in scraps as much, because he will want to keep his nose clean. He won't stay at the trouble, because all the public eye will be on Romano Fenati. To be fair, he's known around the world more so than some MotoGP riders are for that, because it was all over Twitter, all over. It was
I remember it was on Sky News. It was on like the proper news. You know?
Yeah, I remember going to class last year when it happened, and people were sitting outside class just talking about it, going, wow, have you seen what this guy done to this other guy in a motorbike race? And from people that I never ever thought would pay attention to bike racing, and it was just all over their social media as well.
And also, Corin makes an interesting point, something that was, I saw on BT Sport, they highlighted it. I think it was from last year's race, I can't quite remember, but anyway, Corin says, what about what Rossi done to Marquez at Malaysia? But also, I think it was last year's race when they had a 360 onboard camera and they were looking at it from last year's race at Mugello, probably somewhere, and you only see, and I don't think anyone had seen this before because it was so subtle, but Marquez actually sort of elbowed Rossi literally as he's coming through. It was a bit dirty, but
really?
You know, it was these things do happen. It's all very slight of, you know, when you...
Yeah, I never caught that one, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was news to me. I thought you were going to talk about when at turn 2, he just seemed to leave his braking real late on lap 1 and just punted Petrucci off.
Well, he's been so many things, hasn't he? But,
yeah, there's been loads, hasn't there? I mean, you know, with Marquez, he took someone out in Moto 2 after the checkered flag and absolutely destroyed 2 bikes and splattered a kid. And, you know, what he did, was it Argentina last year where he come the wrong way down the grade and then hit a load of riders, and there were a load more off camera.
Yeah, he was ordered off the grid, and then he said, no, sod off, I'm starting.
Yeah, so, you know, it was just one of them. It was probably actually quite good for the sport, really, making Finocchiaro out to be such a villain, but it's something that no one else has done. And going back to when Rossi and Marquez had the spat in 2015, that was so 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. It was almost pathetic. But Marquez rode back into Rossi, if you watch it long enough and slow enough. Marquez rode back into him before he fell off. So, yeah, I think, it was vilified? That's not the right word. But, yeah, he got made out to be more of a villain by the public than he needed to be for now. And it's a shame because, like you say, it's affected his riding this year because he's just trying to keep his nose clean, and that's not how Finocchiaro rides. He's an aggressive rider. He's an attacking rider. He wants to put that last, you know, that really late move on and fly up the inside of someone. And I think, like you say, he's just too scared to do it at the moment. Yeah.
For clarification, we have reached out, I think, or we will certainly soon. We have reached out to Finocchiaro and his team and invited him to come on this show. Not to explain, you know, what his performance this year, but just because I feel like there's a lot that we don't know about him. Like you said, there's a lot of riders who, for various reasons, like to keep themselves to themselves. They like to, or they're very misunderstood, or their sense of humour isn't understood very well. And I just thought he'd be an interesting character to have a chat with. So yeah, maybe one day, who knows.
You could also argue the point that maybe Romano Finotti's the best thing for him would be to possibly go to World Supersport. Maybe just stay at the public eye a little bit, go to another paddock, and then build his career back up from there. Because in Moto3 at the moment, it's not really working out for him. And he's spent too long in that class. And I know he went to Moto2 last year, but at the same time, he needs something new. He needs to rebuild himself back up, because his confidence must be shot at the moment from what happened last year and the fact that he's not getting the results we all know that he's capable of. Then maybe trying out another series, another class might just help build that confidence back up, and he might end up in MotoGP one day, a much more rounded and better rider for it.
That'll go back to Moto2, and he's another rider for Finocchiaro that will suit the Triumph much better than the Honda engine. I agree. Maybe a change of scenery is the way forward for him. I mean, he'd said himself last year that he was retired and he was done. You know, they didn't need to bother banning him. He was retired and done. So, you know, they talked him into coming back. So maybe a World Supersport ride that's a fair shout. That.
I mean, we've welcomed everybody's comments on Mr. Finocchiaro, and I don't want it to feel like it's constantly sort of, so what do you think? You know, just inviting people's comments, knowing full well that 80-90% of them are all going to be negative, because no one on the internet ever says out good.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so yeah, have we done with Moto3? Is that all the Moto3 news?
Just a couple of other wee ones.
Oh, yeah, go on.
John McPhee equalled his best ever result at Mugello, finished in 6th place, but he started off 17th on the grid, and by the end of lap 1 he was 6th place, so
decent.
Great result for him at the start. And unfortunately, Tom Booth-Amos had an operation before Mugello, and he's starting to look a little bit down, which is a bit of a shame. He posted on Twitter a couple of days ago, lost the front just as I started to move his way through the group, and he's going to regroup and come back for Barcelona. He seems to be getting a little bit of not hate, but comments thrown his way that are being a little bit unfair towards him. And we've never ridden in the Moto3 class. I can't imagine how difficult it must be, especially with world-class riders and young talent coming through. And we know that Tom Booth-Amos is a good rider. And just give him a bit of time, and he will end up improving. Yeah. We know the CIP team isn't the best team out there. Look at Darren Binder. He gets results every so often, but he's the brother of a world champion, and Darren Binder isn't a slow rider either. So,
hello team, if you're watching.
I am sorry, but no, they are a good team, but they just.
We know what you mean.
They give Tom a bit more time.
I think everybody in that team.
He's been carrying injury all year. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
From the very start of the year, he's been quite badly injured. But he doesn't talk about it. He doesn't moan on about it and say, I'm having a bad weekend because of this. But I know he's had broken bones that he hasn't told anybody about and stuff all season. And I don't really know enough about the Moto3 series. It's certainly not the CIP team that he races for. I don't know whether his bike is exactly the same spec as Binder's, because just because two bikes are in one team doesn't make them always the same spec. And the KTM is notoriously hard to ride. Are they on this year's chassis? Are they on last year's chassis? There's a load of variables that are thrown in because, Tommy's there because Dorna have helped get him there and his sponsors have helped get him there. So he's in a bit of a catch-22 where he kind of goes where they put him. And would he be performing better on a Honda? Maybe. I know he's rode KTMs before. That's what he won the British Championship on. And he struggled a little bit on the Honda in the Spanish Championship, but it seems to have progressed a lot. And if he's on a slightly older spec KTM, that could be why he's falling so far back. And no doubt, as soon as it rained the other week, he was knocking around the top 10 while it was wet, wasn't he? He was flying. He's an amazing talent, and he is fast enough. He just might be on the wrong package at the minute, but it will come together. I have a lot of faith in Tom. He's a good lad.
Definitely, yeah. We've never said anything negative anyway on this show because we've got nothing bad to say about him. Because, as you say, Michael, he is a talent for the future, certainly. So we're just giving him time and over time, providing that he has no injuries or no further injuries anyway. He will. I'm very confident he will be able to show his full potential once he's got to grips with that team and the bike and everything and surroundings. And if he can maybe get a second season there, then things might be better.
Yeah. Does it? Sometimes you're like, you need a couple of seasons with the same team and the same bike and things like that. Does he need to be in the same team for next year? I don't know. I don't think it'd be any detriment to Tom to move on if that's what gets chosen for him or the team don't want him. I don't think that he's not gaining anything by staying there to run around at the back again for another year, and I don't think he'll advance any further in that team unless they are given the right funding or the right spec bike things. So if Tom was to lose that ride and move to another one, but he has got to stay in the MotoGP paddock, and Dorna must do everything they can to keep him there as well. John McPhee now, he's not I'm pretty sure, and I might be speaking out of turn, but I'm pretty sure he's he rides for Petronas now. He doesn't get any Dorna kind of help to place him. He is where he is, and hopefully John will go on to go some Moto2 with Petronas and Mark Woodage and the guys. So, yeah, I think it's imperative that Dorna give Tom the full support and help him out as much as they possibly can, and Erta.
Sounds like a good shout. Anyway, but Tom Booth-Amos, always welcome on the show if he's got 5 minutes or so. Let's get him on, have a chat with him, find out what's in his head.
You should get his dad on. His dad's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you always had to be nice to him because he used to do my scrutineer at BSB. You were the one that got plonked outside the garage, so you were always dead nice to him.
Fair enough. Okay. Right, this is the Superbike Show. It's Motorsport Radio. Hello and welcome. My name is Lester. We've got Michael Howarth here with us on the show. It's a mystery to me, but he's here. He's welcoming. He's doing an all right job, I suppose. And also Liam Hodgins as well. And we're going to talk about briefly anyway, World Superbikes back in action and finding out the latest in BSB. If you've not been keeping up to date with what's been going on in the world's premier domestic championship, BSB, the latest, if there is any. I believe there might be a couple of bits of information coming up, and also the latest on the Superbikes Challenge as well. We've got latest on who is leading in the nation, the predictions quiz that everybody's talking about, Michael.
Really?
Yeah. We'll tell you more about that later. Also, an interview that I did the other day with Trystan Finocchiaro as well, junior rider, and he's going to be coming on in around half an hour from now. So we've got still lots to talk about on the Superbike Show, plus your comments as well, because we are right now on this Wednesday evening, all very much live.
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
I'm Ryan Vickers.
Hi, I'm Ben Curry.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team, and you're listening to Motorsport Radio.
Yes, definitely. You can get in touch with us if you are tuned in live, or even not, if you've downloaded an audio version of this show as a podcast via Spotify. We're on there. Just search The Superbike Show on whatever the new Apple thing is, because they've just announced that there's no more iTunes anymore. There's not going to be any. So whatever that Apple podcast app, I don't even bother with it, to be honest, but wherever you get your podcast from, search The Superbike Show or Motorsport Radio. We'll pop up, download it, subscribe and all that sort of stuff. And we like to do this every single week, usually on a Thursday when we can, unless we're at a Cool Fab meeting or something like that, in which case then we're not live, so whatever. But anyway, my name's Lester, and we've got Michael Howarth here, and Liam Hodgins as well, and taking your comments at M-Sport Radio on Twitter, Motorsport Radio on Facebook, and leave your comments box in the comments box below, just like that. Typing. Excellent. All right, so World Superbikes, and the latest news from the championship. Liam, you've got, it's not been that much, but what news has there been, Liam?
Well, Tommy Bridwell will be back this weekend, which is great to see him back because he put in a great performance filling in for Eugene Laverty at Imola a few weeks ago. And
very last
he will
minute
be
as well.
Very last minute. He did, if I remember correctly, he didn't do Friday because that's when
he flew
Eugene
out on the
Laverty
Friday, I think. Friday night.
Flew out on the Friday because Eugene Laverty got injured on the Friday and turned up on Saturday and done an amazing job. Done a better job than I even thought he would do. I know Tommy's a great rider, but at the same time, learning Imola, one of the most notorious circuits in the world, and doing what he'd done, he beat some established stars that weekend. And yeah, everyone was singing his praises that weekend. So he's been asked back to replace Eugene Laverty once again for this weekend, and a track that it might not be quite as difficult for him to learn, which is Jerez. So Imola was a completely crazy track, and Jerez is a track that a lot of British riders have at least raced on at some point in their career, and it's going to be great to see him. Maybe he can bag himself some top 10s this weekend. And unfortunately, he didn't get to test a couple of days ago at Misano. The World Superbikes were out there testing. It was rain affected for most of it, for a good part of it. But Jonathan Ray found himself at the top of the timesheet, a couple of tenths just ahead of Michael van der Mark. So Michael van der Mark is continuing his progress that he's really been starting since Assen. They were just over a couple of tenths ahead of Alex Lowes. Alvaro Bautista was in fourth, just ahead of Sandro Cortese. So the field seems to be mix and matching a little bit more. And Jonathan Ray believes that he can now fight Alvaro Bautista for a few more wins this season, and we could see the championship back on track and seeing a good old-fashioned World Superbike title fight, which would be great to see because Jonathan Rea versus Alvaro Bautista for the 2019 championship is something that we're all wanted to see. And
it's a bit late, though, isn't it? But if it was going to happen, I mean,
not really. Although Alvaro Bautista won 12 races in a row, Jonathan Rea, apart from the third race at Assen, finished second in every single one of those races before his triple win at Imola. So he's not that many points behind. I know it sounds like he would be, but considering they finished second in so many races, he still has a great chance of winning this championship. If Bautista has one bad weekend where he maybe gets one podium but doesn't finish, or a couple of races, and Rea goes off to win them all, the championship's back on. We know there's talk about 3 races and it could explode the championship and make it a lot harder for someone to win, but at the same time it could completely close up a championship. So it can work either way. So that's something to look forward to coming into Jerez this weekend, and it's one of those race weekends where anything can happen, because even if Alvaro Bautista knows a track like the back of his hand, he's raced there all of his life pretty much, but at the same time Jonathan Rea won his first world championship there in 2015.
Fair enough. And for you then, Liam, do you think Rea can actually beat, I mean, providing that Bautista doesn't have any issues, doesn't DNF or anything like that, and there's no other things going on, if it was just a straight fight on track, can Jonathan Rea beat Bautista?
Yeah, I think he really can, because the strong point of this Ducati, apart from Alvaro Bautista, has been the straight line speed, and Jerez doesn't have. The straight isn't very long. The back straight is very short. It's over in a couple of seconds. Alvaro Bautista hasn't been the strongest on the brakes. Jonathan Rea, for example, is a demon on the brakes, and he can use high corner speed to his advantage in that sense as well. The Ducati is very good at the corners, but a lot of Jerez corners are very fast and flowing one into the other, so it sort of negates a lot of the V4 Ducati's strengths, so it could really play into Jonathan Rea's hands this weekend.
I'll ask the same question to Michael. Your thoughts? Can Rea actually can he get the best? Or can he get the better of Bautista at the next round?
I think so. Yeah, like you said, the Kawasaki won't any of its flaws and anything it's struggling with this season. It won't be as distinctive at a ref just because of the nature of the track, like you say. There's no major fast straights. It's such an awesome place to ride. I rode there. I went testing there in 2006 and surprisingly enough fell off.
Did you break out?
And I'm guessing, but I'm getting to the point of like, yeah, I think that Johnny Rea, you'll see a proper race this weekend between Bautista and Johnny Rea, between them both. Bautista's got more experience at a ref, but Johnny Rea's rode there enough to be fast. When he's been testing there with the MotoGP guys, and Bautista was on the MotoGP Ducati then, Johnny Rea was nearly as quick. So a ref will be a great leveler for both riders and both bikes, and I think it will see the racing at World Superbikes this year has actually been really good at long last. But it's just that it's either Bautista off in the distance in first place or Johnny Rea. But the actual racing in between has been close, and there's been a lot of for the first couple of rounds, the bike to be on was the Yamaha, because they had 4 riders in the top 8, and no other factory had that on. Ducati didn't have that; they just had Bautista straight front, and Kawasaki only had two riders in. So if you looked at that way, the bike to be on was the Yamaha. And then you've got the Frenchman Loris Baz. Is he coming back for a ref? Is he going to ride this weekend?
Yeah, I believe him and the team are back this weekend.
Yeah, because they got no real time, did they, at Mazzano, because of the weather? I didn't know if they were going to delay it and put it back, but that'll be good to see. Loris Basil, he will get results on that Yamaha. Make no mistake, I think it'll suit him a lot better than the BMW was on previous. Again, have BMW brought anything more to the table for Tom Sykes? It's a track that should actually suit that new BMW because of the way it handles. That should go well round a ref. It could be a real mix-up and almost the start to the season now. Start to the rest of the World Superbike season. I think it could look good. Yeah,
completely agree with that one. As you said there, BMW, Tom Sykes, that's the one that I've been looking forward to this season, where it can finally get to a racetrack where it can use the strength of that BMW, because I think Aragon, for example, was the big tell of how really good that bike is. Down that back straight, the bike was losing lots of power, missing out on tenths of a second, but Tom Sykes very nearly took pole position that weekend and was in the hunt for podiums all weekend. Even at Imola, he was in podium contention until he unfortunately had a mechanical breakdown. So this could be a circuit that we could finally see BMW and Tom Sykes take their first win of the season. If not, at least a few podiums.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I agree.
Okay, we're all in agreement. I would say. Then I personally, I do, for whatever it's worth, and it's not worth much, my opinion. But obviously Ray. Yeah, of course he can beat Bautista. Will he though? I think genuinely, I think it will depend on whether Bautista's on top form, and he's been so far, hasn't he? So
someone else we need to throw into the mix is Chaz Davies. He's looked back on form again. Imola, he was the closest challenger pretty much to Jonathan Rea, was outperforming Bautista all weekend. And
was that just a one-off though?
I don't think so. It's taken him a little bit longer to get used to the Ducati, the V4 firing order. You've got to remember, Bautista's ridden a V4 Ducati for years in MotoGP, while Chaz Davies has been a V-twin. Chaz Davies might just have gotten so used to how that firing order will be, how the bike handles, that moving over to the V4 is quite tough for him. And you got to remember, he was coming into a season still very injured from last season, so it's been taking him a bit of a while to get himself back up to speed. So we could see Chaz Davies performing at his Imola level more consistently throughout the season.
Fair enough. Your thoughts on Davis, Michael?
On Chaz, he's took a bit longer to gel with the bike than I think a lot of people thought it would. I thought maybe even Chaz himself thought that when this bike comes out, he's going to be off at the front and he would be actually giving it to Bautista, almost in front of Bautista. But it's took a while for him to find a setup that works for him. And Chaz is another rider that rides a lot on confidence, and things have to be right for him. A little bit like Lorenzo in that way. So maybe we've got the bike where he wants it, then Chaz will come alive. You've got to remember that the BMW, the Ducati, and even the Kawasaki to a certain extent are all brand new bikes this year. So everyone was kind of finding the way. It's just Bautista did make it look really easy at the start of the season, and maybe because, like you say, he's been used to the characteristics of the V4, even though he's on a different chassis, different tyres and everything. But if you're already used to the way that engine delivers its power and the way the engine works, and to be fair, the Magneti Marelli electronics on the Ducati will actually be better than the ones he's used to on the MotoGP bike, because they can do more with them. They're more open. So he got that bit worked out straight away, and then just worked away on the tyres. And for someone like Bautista, who was quite notorious for crashing at MotoGP, and it was often a lot of it was front end crashes. He lost the front a lot. You would have thought when he transcended across to Pirellis and World Superbikes, that would have been one of his big downfalls. I thought, is he going to be able to cope with the Pirelli tyre that's not just as stiff? The carcass is not just as stiff as a Michelin or the Bridgestone, but he's worked his way around it, and he is loving it, and his results are coming from that. So. But like I say, I think that the World Superbike Series will actually start in earnest this weekend. Maybe not in time for the rest of the field to catch Bautista for him to not win the championship, but you'll see a much closer race at the front.
Maybe I'll ask predictions later in the show about who you think will do particularly well, what positions, and who will win races if it's not going to be Bautista this weekend. Maybe if remind me at the end of the show. I'll try and remember to get predictions, because it's always good to see. Anyway, yeah, not because I know for a fact that Liam always jinxes everybody whenever he's a bit like Kiko in that. He's always
so there's no point.
Yeah, he's literally like, well, I do think Marquez will be good, and what was the it was like really early on in the season. Oh yes, Marquez, he's definitely going to win this one, and then I said, well.
No, he's not. He's not
the Americans.
Yeah. at the crash from the lead. Typical.
Who's going to bet against him in the Circuit of Americas, though, really?
Exactly.
Me, I did. I said he's not going to win, and everyone was like, you shut up, Lester.
You said that just to go against what I said, and
I was right. So, well, I partly went, but I
bet you picked Tottenham at weekend, didn't you, just to be different, Leicester, with Petrucci?
I did watch part of that game, and then I fell asleep. It got really boring really quick. I just wandered off somewhere.
It's not for me, football, for sure.
No, I stopped watching it in 2013, to be honest.
I never started.
But anyway, racing and stuff. So, World Superbikes, we will just have to wait and see, I suppose, is the actual verdict, I suppose, of this panel tonight. BSB, well... Your old stomping ground, Michael. Well, what's the latest, Liam, in BSB? Again, not that much news that I know of. Maybe there's been some news break during the show, which sometimes happens, and we've, if there has, then...
I would like to throw my hands up in the air and say that I've been kind of off the ball when it comes to the BSB news this week, because I've been getting a lot of college stuff out of the way, finishing that up. So, nonetheless, there's still some news. Glenn Irwin is feeling very upbeat about his chances coming to Brands Hatch next weekend, after feeling that him and the team have made sufficient progress at the Donington Park weekend. Now, there's been a little bit of noises come through the last couple of weeks that he's been feeling a little bit better about the bike, about the team. You've got to remember, this is his first season on Kawasaki. The team is new to him. He's new to the team, so it might take a little bit of a while to
it's
gel.
Still quite early on in the season, really. I mean, I don't think anyone, was expecting that the totally brand new rider pairing to be on it and, at the front immediately straight away.
I think a lot of people expected them to be a lot higher up, considering that Glenn Irwin is a BSB race winner and that the team won the championship last season with Leon Haslam. We know how world-class Leon Haslam is, but we also know how amazing Glenn Irwin is, so we expected to see them a bit higher up, maybe inside the top 10, maybe pushing for top 5s, but not as far back as they are at the moment. But then again, the BSB field is just so competitive this season that you had Javi Flores finishing at the bottom end of the top 15 at round 2, and then all of a sudden at Donington Park he's up there fighting for race wins and winning races. So it's just basically a mix and match from round to round. So we might actually see Glenn Irwin and the JG Speedfit Kawasaki team up fighting near the front at Brands Hatch. Someone else that's looking to fight near the front at Brands Hatch is going to be Christian Eden, and he's another rider that's talking very positively of the commitment to the team and how they're progressing, and they feel that their first podium of the year is within striking distance. So they've been making good progress. We've got to remember Alton Park. There was a moment in race 1 where he dropped through the field. It turned out to be an issue with the bike, but from there on in, he fought through the field, was putting in great performances, and was one of the standout riders from the weekend. So, no, it was a couple of rounds ago now, but at the same time, you just don't lose that within a couple of rounds. And if we missed the news, I know we did a show last week, but in that time, Danny Kenton has announced that he will be returning to BSB. I say returning, he'd only done a one-off race last year.
Yeah,
he's going to be coming back, yeah. But this time is more permanent, so we've been wondering where he's been. He's been very quiet, and then he started making a bit of noise on Twitter a couple of days before the announcement, and he's going to be racing an MV Agusta with the Parramatta team. So they will be running the 2016 Leon Camier MV Augustas. So it's a bit of an old bike, but Leon Camier and MV Agusta did make a good bit of progress on that bike just before Leon Camier went off to Tenkate Honda the following season.
Yeah, and well, maybe. I mean, I'm just purely speculating here, and I could be extremely wrong. But the last show we've been off for a couple of weeks. The last show we did, we were talking about Danny Kent, and then
yeah,
and I just had a feeling that he was about to make a comeback based on no information or evidence or rumor at all. But I just thought, and I think I made comments on the show.
Well, didn't we? Yeah, weren't we predicting that he might replace Ben Curry for a bit, but it turned out to be Hector Barbara? And
who knows what goes on behind the scenes?
Yeah, so there was rumblings of him.
Yeah. It's good to see him back anyway, because yeah, I mean, we tried to get him on the show, but he's not. I don't know. He's not replied to an email. I probably don't even do. Anyway, but yeah, good to see Danny Kent back. How well will he do? Well, no pressure on him for the the first race back, I suppose, first weekend back, just getting to grips with things probably. And is this just a learning year for him, probably? Because I don't know, what would we say for that, Liam?
I would say, yeah, it's probably a learning year. It's hard to tell how, if he does well, then you'd probably say that he's making that bike look better than it actually is. I'm not saying MV Agusta is a bad bike, it's just a very old bike now, and if he's not doing well, then you could say it's probably the bike, since it's quite an old bike. And then you look at when it was in World Superbikes, it didn't do well with Cami or the MV Agusta team. So in a way, Danny Kent has found himself in quite a good situation where he won't be under that much pressure to perform.
Or maybe he will. Maybe he's been brought in, Michael, to just be on it straight away and get to the front and do a good job and bring in some sponsors, if that is the case.
Well, I mean, I rode... wait up. Battery's getting low on my phone. Let me see if I can just plug that in. Yeah, I actually...
Rookie error.
I don't know if that's charging or not, but I've plugged it in anyway. Yeah, I rode an MV Agusta in Superbikes in 2009. So for him to come back onto one of those, and they're still quite a close bike, they never really derived very much, even from back then. The chassis on them is incredible. It's a really, really user-friendly bike to jump on. Whereas the Suzuki last year was very alien to him. He's never had the chance to ride a Superbike, and he rode it the other day at Thruxton. This new MV Agusta, there was something going on them there, and he managed to get out for a few laps. So the bike itself will be good for him. Danny Kent's come from small bikes and 600s in Moto2, so that the MV Agusta is a really good bike in that way because it doesn't mind running corner speed, so he'll get on with it that way. It's not very snatchy on the power. The power delivery is good. His chief mechanic, who'll be doing all the data and stuff, Dave Tyson, the team boss, is very good on the Motec side of things. So I don't think they can expect him to come out fighting and being right up there from the word go. He's making a start at Snetterton. I don't know if Danny's ever even seen Snetterton or rode round it, and he's certainly not rode round it in anger. And there'll be quite a few tracks like that Danny Kent's not been to, or it's that long since he's been to. You can't expect him to be right up at the front. I think last year when he did Brands Hatch last round, I think he gave a real good account of himself on the Hassall Suzuki, with the amount of time that they had on the bike. So yeah, I can't see them expecting miracles from him, but I'd expect that Danny will get a result in the long run.
Yeah, towards the end of the season. Maybe.
Rider. Yeah. I'm going. If we can just cut back to poor Glenn Irwin, he's having so many things made about him that he's in the team that won the championship last year, and he should be up there, and he should be doing this, and he should be doing that. He's come to a new team. Then the team are working with a brand new bike that is essentially quite different from last year. Yeah, the chassis is pretty much the same, but they're also running different forks now because they've had an upgrade in forks from last year. So there's not a lot of data that they can use from Leon that they can pass over to Glenn. So they're all on a new footing. And I was what was I? I was leading towards something, and I kind of forgot there. But again, Glenn will gel with that bike, and it will come. He's got Phil Marion now in his camp as his chief mechanic. Phil Marion looked after Eugene Levity for forever and ever until he went to Ducati this year. So he's the man to get there. So there's, it's an unfair comparison to keep saying Glenn is on last year's championship winning bike when he's not. And you've got to remember that for a lot of time in BSB, that's what I was leading to. Leon Haslam used a different tyre to everybody else. So that bike, what setup information they do have is around a tyre that nobody else used in BSB. So they are starting from absolute scratch. They can't say, oh, this works, because it worked for Leon, but it didn't work for anybody else. So why should it immediately work for Glenn, who was a very good 600 rider? He could ride the Ducati in a 600 style, and you can't really do that with the Kawasaki, but there's no two way. Again, he had a real good, as soon as he got to the northwest where he could just go the thing flat out, he was there and away. Glenn will come to the front of the field, but also, like you said, if you aren't on your absolute A game in BSB at the minute for a race weekend, you ain't getting in the top 10 because there's 25 riders that can finish in the top 10. You know, maybe more. So if you bring a knife to a gunfight at BFB at minute and you're going straight to the back of the pack, you know, it's that simple.
Do you think, potentially, just thought of an initial thing for maybe Danny Kent to aim to achieve, knowing that both him and Scott Redding have, I don't know who has the least amount of experience on these British tracks. Maybe they're both roughly about the same. Don't know.
Yeah, I think it'd be Scott. It'll be Scott. Scott did nothing in this country at all, ever.
Yeah. So do you think potentially I know it's kind of again an unfair sort of comparison to try and make, but do you think maybe as an initial benchmark for him to get on the performance levels of Scott Redding in terms of learning the track straight away, being on it as early as possible, given that Scott Redding's not, doesn't know any of the tracks?
It's an unfair comparison to make it all the way through that, isn't it? And I don't mean this in any disrespect to Dave Tyson and his team at all, but Scott's in the best team in BSB with the most money, with the most resources. If it would be unfair to try and make that comparison, I think, and say that Danny should be at the level of where Scott will be straight away, because I think it's two different things entirely at the minute. Scott's been brought in to do a job, and it's to win BSB within 2 years. You know, Paul Bird was very shrewd that he brought Josh in, knowing that Josh developed a bike in 2015 and won the championship with it. So that's his safety net. He's got Josh there that will win and could possibly win the championship. If Scott was going to struggle at certain circuits where he wasn't going to get those results this year, knowing full well that Scott will learn in time and get the results next year and win the title if he doesn't win it this year. Danny, I think, has just got to go with what he's got, accept his package. I think if he's getting into the top 15 and top 10 within 3 or 4 rems, I think that's job done for them. And I don't think that Dave Tyson will be expecting him to do any more than that. If they do, great. And like I say, Dave Tyson is really good at what he does on the Motec, and Danny's a fantastic rider, and the MV's a really good package. But I think it's unfair to put them in the same bracket as PBM, and I think that Dave would agree with that. You know, they've not got a £2 million budget and a factory Ducati. Yeah, they've got a factory MV, but like you say, it's from 2016. So yeah, I don't think you can categorise them in the same thing.
Just a thought, yeah. I personally, I think is probably a good thing that Scott and Danny are both racing in BSB. Two of arguably the biggest names since 2015 that have come out of this country, with Danny doing what he did in Moto3, and Scott coming directly into BSB from MotoGP. So all eyes are definitely on them, and there's always going to be a bit of added pressure just because of who they are, especially. So, Scott's making it work, seemingly so, but like you say, on a dramatically different budget to most of the other teams, or all of the other teams probably. Any thoughts on that? Send them across. It's at M Sport Radio on Twitter, Motorsport Radio on Facebook, or leave your comments in the comments box below. It is the Superbike Show. It's Lester here, and we've got Michael Howarth and Liam Hodgins as well. And shortly we will be speaking to Mr. Trystan Finocchiaro, half Italian. I think he's half anyway. I didn't actually get around to discussing his heritage, but he's got an Italian name. But he's racing, I think, under a British license anyway. He's racing in the BSB paddock, in the junior super sports, and also he's been racing abroad the past couple of years in the World Superbike paddocks, in the World Supersport 300, I think. I always get that wrong. Sorry. Junior
Supersport.
He's here shortly to explain a lot better than I did. Anyway, just a moment ago. But I just want to pick up on one of the thing that was seemingly it pretty much went kind of viral, I suppose, by the viral definition standards that I've just made up in my head of something regarding circuit food. Because if you just joined us, you may be a member of the BSB and Fans Facebook group. If you're not, then join up. It's mostly fun. And we launched a thing called Rate My Motorsport Plate, and it has nothing at all to do with anything that sounds similar to that. But anyway, Rate My Motorsport Plate. It is what you think it is. And anyway, one person sent in a lovely tray for breakfast, which is literally a tray on as a metal.
Oh, wow.
It's more like a metal tray. Well, imagine something that a dog would eat off.
It's that mango chutney.
They're baked beans. They're baked beans.
From my it looks like mango chutney.
It does look a bit like mango chutney, yes, admittedly. And the person who actually purchased this, I think he's the admin of BTCC Tin Top group, and he posted it first on there, and I just said, can we repost it, because this looks like a shambles on a tray. And to describe it, if you're only listening to it, you've got some sort of yellow thing, which is either curdled custard, cheese, or eggs. A lump of that stuff. And apparently the guy who bought it didn't want any toast, but they still charged him the full price, £8.60, which is even more shocking, apparently. And you've got like, I don't know, 10 mushrooms there, and Liam hates mushrooms.
Oh, they're the worst thing on the planet. 2
very, very pale-looking sausages, and the whole thing doesn't even come on a plate. So anyway, what
I love about that is you get a plastic fork and knife, not even proper cutlery.
Yeah, it's so anyway, it's hashtag Rate My Motorsport Plate. If you can come up with an either fantastic example of circuit food, circuit breakfasts or whatever, or just shambolic mess of circuit food, we want to know either way. And we've also, luckily, just by chance, happen to have a top motorsport hashtag Rate My Motorsport Plate reviewer on tonight's show, Michael Howarth, who gave us this fine performance from his Facebook group recently.
Oh, God.
And he's rating a Greg's vegan sausage roll.
I went rebel. I didn't realise I looked like I worked in Asda, though.
Does a bit, to be honest.
It's only a taste test, isn't it? So,
and I've only just got the Yellow Jacket reference to the French accent now. I've only just realised.
Yeah, did you get that? Yeah.
Just now, yeah.
We're going to try it.
So,
and give an honest opinion.
He's trying a vegan sausage roll.
Oh, it smells like baby sick.
Never smell your food before you eat it.
You dirty bastards. You dare.
And it's fair to say he wasn't a big fan, I suppose. Yeah, so...
being bored is a very, very dangerous thing, honestly.
I've never actually had one, because partly based on that review, actually.
You've missed nothing. You've missed nothing.
How much are they?
Oh, I don't know. It weren't so cheap. I know I should have got the steak bake that I really wanted instead of doing that taste test review, because I ended up being hungry because I didn't eat either of them in the end. But God almighty, yeah, I am an absolute fool.
I know by now a sausage roll from Greg's will send you back to the dole. So,
well,
I don't want to be back.
I've not been to Greg's personally since 2009. So 10 years for me. I'm well on off that Greg's train anyway. But other vegan sausage rolls apparently might be available. It's not just a Greg's thing. Yeah, if I don't know if you want to contribute that to the hashtag Rate My Motorsport Plate, maybe. To be perfectly honest, a bit of consumer advice for everyone going to Silverstone. McDonald's is just 5 minutes down the road, guys. Just saying. And Tesco's like 10 minutes down the road. Just saying. I mean, I've literally been to an event, albeit a smaller event, where, you know, your car isn't like half a mile away. So literally, I've jumped in the car. We drove down to Tesco, bought loads of snacks, even bought a kettle, brought it back to the track, brewed up. We bought loads of like sachets and coffee and stuff like that. Brewed up, made proper everything. We bought some cups and stuff for like a quid each, and then just had a proper big feast in the media room. That was So do that. Oh, you can't go in the media room. Okay, but anyway, if you've got somewhere to take your own kettle basically, because like I think I'm not sure. It's probably like a couple of quid, £2 at least probably, for a cup of coffee at Silverstone. Anyway, we could literally fill a show talking and whinging about circuit food and stuff like that. But we have an interview to get to. Yes, with junior supersport rider Trystan Finocchiaro, and I think I've just about got the pronunciation of that name right. Anyway, I had a chat with him just the other day while he was in a hotel room getting ready to do some work. So let's hear from him. See what he has to say about his career to date, who he is, where he's come from, and what he's going to be doing next. So you don't know who you are and what you race in. You, as well as racing in the world Supersport 300 category for the past couple of seasons. This year, in 2019, you're also back in BSB in the paddock. Tell us more.
Yeah, this year I decided to go to the BSB class, the junior supersport class. For a number of reasons, mainly financial, to sort of try and build up a good season and launch back into the World Championship next year. I spent the season in the World Supersport 300 class last year, which was a massive eye opener to see what it's like out at World Championship. But it was a bit of a frustrating year because we didn't quite have. I was with an amazing team, the Scuderia Maranga team. But unfortunately, the bike they chose to go with wasn't quite the bike of choice. All the other manufacturers basically sort of got massive upgrades that season, and the Honda didn't. So we were sort of struggling at the back a little bit. So from that, I sort of wanted to come back into British Championships with KTM. I spoke with, at the end of the last season, Jeremy McWilliams, and he sorted out this ride for me for this year.
Nice.
And it's just been great to be back up the front of a race. The idea for this season is just to try and be British champion, and then hopefully that'll open doors for next season. Yeah,
I might want to eventually be British champion. Why not give that a go? Or be champion, why not? But yeah, you've been doing pretty well so far this season in 2019. You did well at the first round at Silverstone, and most recently at Donington as well.
Yeah, no, it's been dead positive so far. 2 second places at Silverstone was a good way to start off. And then at Donington, we managed to win the first race. And got third in the second one. In the second race, we were actually having a bit of problems getting the bike down the gearbox, and we need to find out why that was. But in the end, still managed to salvage third from the race, so it was very, very good. We're now also leading the championship by 11 points. But they do this thing in my class where they sort of drop your 2 worst results.
Oh yeah.
So at the end of the season, all the points will be a bit different. But without keeping that in mind at the moment, we've got the championship lead by 11 points. So hopefully, with a long way left to go, hopefully we can keep hold of that.
Sounds all right, I suppose. Yeah, it's a decent start to the season, as you say, leading and handful of podiums so far anyway. And it was recently announced, Trystan, that you'd be entering back into the World Supersport 300 as a wildcard rider at Donington in not long away now, just a few weeks really.
No, the beginning of June, I believe. And no, it'll be really good. I'm really excited for it because it'll be the first time that I can have a good shout in that class on a good competitive bike. So it'll be good to see what we can do now. I know Donington very well. We've already raced there this season. So, my target is I want to try and get at least 1 championship point. But if we can do a bit more than that, it would also be great.
As I mentioned at the start, when I was introducing you, I mentioned that you were somewhat of a potential future journalist. You're doing a journalism course at uni. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, Coventry Union.
Yeah, and I first heard about you, to be honest, Trystan, not really through your racing, in your racing and winning capacity, but on a motoring podcast that you were doing and publishing with your fellow uni colleagues and stuff. So, and also you've been involved with Eurosport, working behind the scenes. So, people who might recognise him on this video might also see him mooching about in the paddock in BSB, working behind the scenes for the guys at Eurosport. So you're doing quite a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it's good to be keeping busy. Anything that keeps me in the motorsport scene is a bonus. So yeah, to be we had that motoring podcast going, the 3-wheel drive podcast, which was definitely enjoyable, and just sort of anything that keeps me in the paddock, really, because obviously racing's obviously I'd love to be racing as a career, but it's just, you don't really get paid racing. You either pay for racing or you don't make it. So to have that as a backup is is something I enjoy doing, and it keeps me in the motorsport scene is the main thing. Exactly,
yeah, and it also, I suppose, from a practical level, even when, as you say, you're not necessarily there racing, you can it's extremely handy to be just bumping into all of the right people, isn't it?
Exactly,
so, yeah. Just because you're there doing media stuff and they're just being around bikes and just being around racing, it is a fantastic environment. Being in being in the BSB paddock, as anybody who's been in the BSB paddock will just know, just being there is fantastic in itself, because it is the world's best domestic championship as well. But you are, I mean, where do you see yourself maybe in 3 or 4 years' time? I mean, presumably you've got somewhat budget depending, yes, but presumably you've got a bit of a plan in mind for your riding. And if all goes well, where would you see yourself in like 3 years?
It's a very good question because it's something I think a lot about. It's sort of, what comes next. Short term, I want to sort of finish the season as well as I can and go back into World Championship next season and, actually get some good results in World Championship, somewhere up the frontish. After that, I'm not 100% sure. There's quite a few ways I could go. I'd like to either try and stay World Championship. We've thought about Italian Championships, and also one we've been looking into recently is actually Moto America. Just because looking over there, they seem to have a good amount of prize money, which keeps you going, gives you a bit of motivation. And it's also just for a change in scenery. I've been racing on the British tracks for a long time, and as much as there's some amazing tracks in the UK, I kind of want to sort of experience some new circuits, some new surroundings. And so I'm trying to think of ways to do that. Say if I was to come back to the UK, I'd probably look for a ride somewhere in the British Supersport class, just because there's, I think, there's some really good classes in the UK. Supersport class looks the most interesting to me, and it'll be interesting to see where they go as well with the whole Moto2 thing they're introducing. So there's quite a few options. So it's just sort of a wait and see thing, really.
Yeah, I suppose that it does all depend really on many different factors, mostly money, unfortunately, as is the case with everyone always. A little thing called being skint always gets in the way of an amazing career, doesn't it? So, yeah, something I'd know a lot about. Anyway, but yeah, so you're busy this season doing your journalism, and are you still in uni doing that at the moment, or was that last year sort of thing?
I've just finished my second year, so I've got I've got a good bit of time off now until October to focus on racing. But obviously, I do have bits and bobs with Eurosport and other things on the side, which keeps me busy.
Yeah.
But no, just finished my second year, so I'll be back at it next year, and then see where it goes from there, really.
Okay, fair enough. Thought I'd ask. And going back to the very start, really, how did you? A lot of people starting out in places like Cool Fab Racing, mini bikes and stuff when they were very, very young, especially nowadays, anyway. But tell us how you first got started. What was it? And where were you racing?
My first race season was with Fab Racing. God, it was a while ago now. It was, and it was on Mini Moto for the first sort of 3 rounds, and then I jumped on one of those Metrokit 70cc gearbox. Was my first gearbox bike I rode, and did sort of a season doing both of those at the same time. But I started fairly late-ish for that sort of. I think I started about 11, 12.
Well, that actually is quite late for riders nowadays. I mean, there are riders 6 years old racing in Cool Fab. So yeah,
exactly. So I struggled a little bit down the straights with my size at the time. So I quickly moved on to Thundersport, to the Aprilia Super Teens. Did a couple of seasons there. Then moved on to the 450 Aprilias. Did that with Ian Newton in competition, which was an amazing experience learning from Ian. Some of the contacts he had and all the knowledge he had was was really good. I was also mentored by rider James Folkard, who's he was, in my opinion, one of the best riders I've ever seen, but didn't quite make it. The year he won the Aprilia RV 450 Championship, it was Jake Dixon in second, and look where Jake is now.
Oh.
But yes, no, it was great to learn from him, and from Ian, and then to move on from there. It really helped me, to where I am now.
Okay. Well, it's always good to know where a rider's sort of come from, if we don't necessarily know. And jumping forward again, back to the question I asked you recently as well about where you'd like to be riding ultimately. I suppose somewhere. I mean, if literally budget was no problem, as let's just forget that little thing called money for a second. I suppose maybe like most people, would it be MotoGP that you'd probably, as a realistic sort of goal, or maybe are you potentially sort of at this moment in time aiming towards somewhere like World Superbikes, if that's anybody's aim or goal at all anymore?
I'm sort of open-minded to see where racing will take me. In all honesty, my main target is to enjoy my racing. Whatever I'm doing, wherever I want to go, I want to make sure what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be enjoying it, because mainly because last season I just didn't enjoy it as much as it was World Championships and it was high profile and all of that. The environment I was in with an uncompetitive package, I just simply didn't enjoy it. So say if there was an opportunity to go to somewhere in the MotoGP paddock on a bike that was uncompetitive, I would have to think about it, because as much as I'd love to be in that paddock, it depends, very much on whether I'm going to enjoy my racing. That's the main thing I want to take out of it. It's just enjoyment, and then so I'm not really sure where I want to go. Yeah. But that's something I'll figure out on the way, I guess.
All right. Well, again, it's just a way of seeing, I suppose, what's in your mind in terms of like options really going forward. And as you've spent the past few years sort of in and out of the World Superbike paddock and stuff, and bobbing around there, and as you now know, we've talking about World Superbikes, we now have no longer a Johnny Ray dominated championship. It's now dominated entirely by someone else as well, Mr. Bautista. In your point of view, in your journalistic point of view, has World Superbikes just replaced one domination for another? Is it necessarily a good thing to have so much domination, whether it's Ray or Bautista?
I think, at first it was refreshing to see a new, and then it started to get a little bit tedious, thinking, is it just going to be, at first we thought, all right, this is the cure for World Superbikes, and then it sort of became, well, no, this is just the same thing, but a different colour, a different bike, and a different rider. It'll be interesting to see, because I know, obviously, the character that Johnny is, he won't give up, and he won't stop until he's there fighting with Alvaro. In fact, he beat him at Imola. But again, he did clear off with the race as well. So it would be nice to see those two battling. I think that's where the excitement's going to start to come into it. But it's just waiting for that to happen. But I do think it will.
Well, we're all hoping, I suppose. Yeah, in the past year or so, I think it was in the past year, we've had an Alex Lowe's and Van der Mark victory anyway. So maybe, those guys can start to sort of muscle their way through at the top of World Superbikes anyway. But I suppose that remains to be seen, I suppose. And
to see also another manufacturer up there, to have the Yamahas up there would be, would be great to see, because they're sort of there but not quite there yet. So it'd be good to see both of those be fighting for the top, and see something winning other than a Kawasaki or a Ducati would be nice.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of unfortunate to say, but I think it is true that as you mentioned, maybe Lowe's is only there just to pick up the crumbs from whenever Bautista and Ray have a bad day. Really, which is unfortunate, but
yeah, I mean, he's in a better position than some of the other manufacturers, but not quite in the best position that he could be. But looking at both Alex and Van der Mark, they're it's especially Lowe's. He's riding extremely well, riding and racing extremely well. So if they can bridge that gap to the front, they will then sort of learn very quickly how to beat the likes of Bautista and Ray. But they've got to get there first.
True. Yeah, I get the feeling maybe things are entirely not this way at all. But I get the feeling, Trystan, that for someone like Alex Lowe's, he's done as much as he can do in that paddock at the moment. Maybe he thinks he can still go on and win and dominate or whatever. Maybe the team do as well, but maybe it's time for him to move on. I don't know if basically sort of getting the third place is probably like genuinely that roughly highest position he can probably get from time to time, then why stick around?
Yeah, I can see a point of view there, definitely. It'd be nice to see what he could do on a Kawasaki or a Ducati or one of the front running bikes, to see if that would make a difference. Personally, I think it would. But also, we did see that when he came into MotoGP on the Monster Tech 3 Yamaha, he did really well on that. With only, I think it was 1 or 2 rounds he did. Yeah. So it would also be interesting to see what he could do if he then moved on to MotoGP. It might also help him to have a change of scenery. But I do think he's riding really well, and
no doubt, yeah.
But obviously, it'd be nice to now see him to see him bridge that gap.
Well, I tell you what, before the end of the season, Trystan, let's have you back on the show, on the Superbike Show, talk about the seemingly endless state of World Superbikes and what needs to be done and how to fix it and that sort of stuff. The same sort of thing that we talk about when we talk about with Formula One. It's like, what can we do to fix it? It seems that the same sort of conversations that I think fans always have, don't we? So yeah, you're welcome back on the show. Maybe even after, let's say, tentatively, let's pencil you in maybe for after your first wild card ride, maybe, if you do really well.
Yeah, that'd be a pleasure.
See what happens.
Got to do really well.
Excellent. All right. So for people then who want to keep track of you on social media, I know you're on Facebook and Twitter. Where can they follow you? Facebook. A like on my Facebook page would be greatly appreciated. Trystan Finocchiaro #58. Also Instagram, Trystan.f58.
and Twitter at SpagBog58. Spag is SPAG and Bog BOG, and a 58. Or if you just search Trystan Finocchiaro, it's quite a unique name, so you'll find it.
I hadn't noticed, to be honest. And I will ask you one day, probably in the future, as to why your thing is called SpagBog. But anyway, yes. And we didn't even talk about your Italian family either yet, so maybe we'll save that for the future. But yes, you can probably tell that Trystan has some sort of Italian name. But again, we'll ask you about that in the future. For now, though, we'll let you go and do some top biking stuff, whatever it is. I don't know, what are you doing for the rest of the day?
I'm going to work on the French Open with Eurosport, so nothing to do with motorsport, but keeps me in the company, sort of thing.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I'll let you get on with that then. And you're more than welcome to come back on the Superbike Show in the future, Trystan. Good luck with everything in the rest of the season. If we don't see you, I'm sure we will do, though. But best of luck at Donington as well. And ciao for now.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Perfect. Excellent. Well done to Trystan through coping through my waffling. I did go on a little bit, but apologies, Trystan. And he's a fantastic young lad. And he got a first and a third at Donington last time out. And we will, as we said, keep up to date with just how well he goes, whether it's in his journalism career, in his TV career, that sort of thing, on Eurosport. Or on a bike, who knows. This is the Superbike Show. It's Motorsport Radio. Hello and welcome. If you've just joined us, you've missed everything. You've missed it all. Literally everything. You've not missed much, to be honest. But my name's Lester. Liam Hodgins is here, and we've also got Michael Howarth here as well, who we did tease previously on Facebook just before we came on, a couple of hours before we came on the show, that he'd have some sort of announcement, and it was said by someone, I forgot who it was exactly, what that announcement is. And I think I know exactly what the big announcement, Michael, that you've got up your sleeve or under your hat, that you're keeping from us. I think you're going to retire from racing, or this isn't my idea anyway, but it was said that you're actually going to retire from racing and actually become a vegan sausage roll taste tester.
Yeah. Well, like you say, it just depends on the state of boredom as to what I'll taste and try and do and post on Facebook.
You must have been very bored to post that, but
yeah. And I think I remember being quite hungover as well. I think it was one of them I'd seen a couple of people putting these videos up on about it, and I thought, I can beat that. And me with an hangover, sat here bored, just rushed to Greg's, grabbed him, and just come up with that absolute idiocy. I'm, like I said before, it's almost a bit premature. I'm working with a brand new marketing agency now that are kind of taking over the reins of doing all the sponsorship finding and stuff. So I think she got a little bit excited, but as I said before, the plan is to come back racing. I'm not done yet. I'm certainly not done yet. And I'll never be one of the front runners. And the idea is to do a season and finish on my terms rather than it be an injury that finishes my career. And then go into the team management side again and just run the team. But yeah, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
So, I mean, you could be making to maybe rephrase what you said, maybe a comeback out of spite to end the career properly on your own terms, maybe, or instead of
pretty much. I think it's pure stubbornness, isn't it? That I don't really want to go out being that kid that splattered himself at Alton Park and never got back on a bike and it didn't happen for him again. I'm one of these. I was having a conversation on Facebook last night with someone about the same thing, like the Sean Winfields of this world that are never gonna win a BSB race, really, and certainly not a championship. But some of us are there for the challenge of riding the superbike rather than dropping into super stock or maybe Thundersport or something like that. I go to racing BSB to race the bike and the track, not necessarily the other riders, because my talent isn't up there. I've I've had some strange results where, for instance, and I will blow my own trumpet because it's the only time I can from BSB, but in 2007 at the start of the season, we went testing at Snetterton, and I was quickest in one of the sessions, and there might have only been 5 riders out on track, but in the wet I was quicker than Kianari, and one of the sessions I was only a second off Johnny Ray. So there was something there. All I needed to do was just constantly piss them, for want of a better word, because I seemed to be good in the wet. Unfortunately, in the dry, I never quite made it. But it was the transition to Pirelli tyres when they became the controlled tyre people that kind of killed me off. I've never really got on with the tyres. And we've seen it happen to other riders. It finished Marco Melandri in MotoGP. Not that I ever is to that level, but sometimes it's something so simple that can stop you forward in your career. But yeah, I'd like one more kick at it, one more kind of roll of the dice, and then move on and just become a team manager.
Yeah, well, it's much the same sort of thing that John McGuinness said after his 2017 injury. Was it 2017? He basically just wanted to see if he could get back, and knowing that he's only got a couple more properly competitive, years in him, really, just to sort of end things on his own terms, rather than just bow out, knowing that he could have done. But good luck with that.
Yeah. It's the same for Shaky Byrne this season. I'm sure Shaky's aching to get back, and I'm one of these that I hope he does. I hope he does come back. I don't like these people that go with all these negatives, that he's nothing to prove and he should retire and he should do this. And
I might have said something along those lines, yeah.
Well, sort of, because you're a long time retired at this game, and it's pretty much like someone coming up to you, Lester, now and saying, Lester, you're too old, it's time to retire, you've got to give the young lads a chance.
I hear that every day.
Yeah, Lester, bugger off.
If someone's prepared to put a bike under you, and you still want it as much as you ever have, and you can be wherever you are, then I say to any rider, carry on. Because, like I say, you're a long time retired at this game, and it can be cruel. So no, I'd love to see Shaky back personally, and I think he would cut the mustard on that new V4. I think it's a bike that would suit him down to the ground.
Have you heard anything in particular?
Nothing, just other than what he's kind of said on Eurosport, that he wants to come back, and it may come towards the end of this season where he gets chucked on a bike and goes testing somewhere, and he decides it's not for him. But I understand that from his injury again, it's his injury that's forced him into the position he's at now, and not his own decision. And it might take him half an hour on a bike for him to go, yeah, I've not got it anymore, I don't want it anymore, it's not as it was, and commentary's the way forward. But until Shaky finds that out for himself, then it'll niggle at him, and it'll niggle, and he's too good to have his career ended by a bit of an accident at Snetterton. So I say a bit of an accident, I know he busted his neck, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
So in a way, he's almost got to come back or he's got to get back on a bike if he hasn't been properly already somewhere secretly, just to see for himself and nobody else whether he's still got it. He's got like a personal thing, like you have, really, just to see, if you still got it, really.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's Shane's mentality as well. I mean, that's why he's a BSB champion, and he's won so many titles, that it's in his nature, it's in his blood. He wants to come back fighting, and he won't go out fighting. He won't go out losing. So I don't think we've seen the last of Shaky myself.
Well, let's hope you're right. Anyway, Michael, and I know on this show anyway, I've suggested the opposite, maybe from a point of ignorance, because I've never been a racer. I don't know what it's like to be facing a shortened career on a bike. Anyway,
well, once you've got the bug, as Michael will know, that once you've got it, you can never lose it. And if you don't go out on your own terms, then it's hard to accept. So you need to come back.
I suppose it is like, the only way I can liken it is to making, media and radio programs, really. A lot of people say I should retire now, but can't help it, I keep coming back every other week. So, but anyway, moving on to our final thing before we let you guys go. TT, terrible. Say just, I'm trying to think of the positives. Some people, one race is good for them, but so far, it's not. It's
it's been a strange fortnight, hasn't it? With pretty much all practice been cancelled, and then you had the race on Monday that cost a good friend of mine his life, Daly. One of the nicest, most genuine people you could ever wish to meet. His family were amazing. His wife, such a lovely person, and he's leaving her and Daisy behind, knowing that he was doing the thing that he loved, and it's so hard. It kicked especially hard for me personally on Monday. Not that any of this is about me in any way, but it was also the anniversary of Carl Harris down there. He was, people will know, certainly on Facebook and such, was my best friend in the paddock. And then to lose Daly, who I've had a little bit of influence in his racing, with sponsoring leathers between me and my business partner for a season. And his wife, actually, she was there for me when Carl died a lot. And yeah, it was a real kick in the nuts. But in motorcycle racing, we know what we're doing. And if your family are behind you 100%, and you do, we know the risks. We know exactly what we're doing. It doesn't make it any easier, but for anybody concerned. But he was doing what he loved, and you've got to. I put a post up on Monday night, and you've got to think about the good times and not the bad. It's really horrendous. The TT is one of the greatest spectacles in the world. And I think it should be. I'm an advocate. I think it should always carry on. But unfortunately, it's so great, and sometimes it has an unhappy ending. So my heartfelt sympathy goes out to Nat and Daisy and Daly's family. I know that there's something been set up. I hope you don't mind me kind of going on about this, Lester, a bit.
Go on.
But they set up a GoFund page or just giving. I'm not entirely sure about the whole what's it. It's been out on the Isle of Man radio today about it, because he put his life and soul into racing at Daly, and this year they'd spent every last penny they got to get him to the TT, and we know how the insurance companies work and everything takes time and things like that. So there has been a GoFundMe thing set up for him. So if anybody can go to that page and help the family out as he can. He's a small daughter there, and some people may even consider it almost selfish that he was doing it, but it's just not like that. The family was a racing family that loved racing, and it's going to be a terrible time for him for the coming future. But I just wish them all the best. And like you said, the racing this week's not been anything really. I think we were building up to two amazing races. The Superbike race before Daly's accident was fitting up to be something I think could have been another classic, even though they'd not had a great deal of time on track. And then again, the Super Sport race, we was robbed of a really good race there because of the weather that Lee Johnston won, and that was his first TT win, and he did really well. And I'm claiming Lee as one of our own now because he lives down the road from me. He actually met a lass from Yorkshire, from Ebden Bridge, the lesbian capital of Europe. Just in case you're interested, it really is. So we've got, and then the Jamie Coward from Ebden Bridge that's coming along this year. It's his time to shine. They say the amount of progress that you need to make in the TT, like you do your apprenticeship for a few years and then come on strong. So I hope we get some decent racing tomorrow. I think they're going to try and get most of the programme done tomorrow because the weather's looking, it's the best it's going to be all week, and they're trying to run the senior at 10:45 on Friday morning, but again, that's yet to be seen because we were promised racing today and the weather beat us again. I almost wish now myself that Monday had been rained off, but things are what they are. But yeah, let's hope for some good racing tomorrow, then they can give a good account of themselves, the lads out there. It must be hell for them all being there. They've been there 2 weeks now, and we've had 4 laps of racing. It's just hard work, isn't it? It's rubbish.
It's definitely a year to forget. Definitely for many many reasons. But yeah, we of course at Motorsport Radio and Motorsport Media extend our condolences to the friends and family. And there really isn't anything else to add, judging by the outpouring of comments and emotion on Facebook all week, and your comments as well, Michael. There's nothing really extra that we can add, but yeah, that's I don't know, unless Liam's got anything else. I mean, you don't have to comment or anything if you don't want to. I just thought I'd, rather than...
Yeah, it's to echo Michael's sentiments, it's an absolute shame. We've lost another great rider and another brilliant person. We all know the risks of the TT, and we just don't seem to realise how much these riders put their lives on the line to give us enjoyment of the spectacle of the TT. But it's such a horrible thing. About a year or two ago, I lost someone at the TT that I knew a lot about, Adam Lyne. And I met him, got my first ever mini moto off him, and that's another absolute heartbreaking thing for another family to go through. So yeah, it's fingers crossed that the GoFundMe page that they've set up, we can contribute to that and help them through this difficult time, because that's what they'll need.
Yeah, I will make sure that we put the link to that official. If it's the fundraising site, I'll put that in the link to the description on the show, just to make sure that you can click on and donate and help the family out. Whilst, like you say, Michael, the insurance and things like that are being sorted, and hopefully we don't hear any things like we heard from Macau a couple of years ago, a similar sort of thing. We don't want anything like that going on. So with that in mind, anyway, I think that's a downbeat but rather appropriate way to end the show, given everything that's happened at the TT the past few weeks. And thank you, Liam, for coming on tonight's show.
Anytime. I'm here every single week.
Yes, you are. Yes. But you don't have to be. So thank you anyway.
I love being here.
We're not paying him to be here, so it literally doesn't have to be here. But thank you as well, Michael, for I suppose making your Motorsport Radio debut as a full panelist, I suppose.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, and I am a media horse, so
yes, you are.
If you want me on again, I'm more than welcome to come, and I am very cheap. I'm cheaper than free.
Well,
wow, someone cheaper than me. How's that possible?
And I just while you've been chatting, I have just verified your claim that Hepton Bridge is the lesbian capital of Europe. Who has apparently more lesbian women per square foot.
Very, very clear. They are not the ones that you may watch on your own on your phone late at night. These are the ones that wear dungarees and have got airy armpits and don't wear shoes. Do not flock to Hebden Bridge, people, if you think you're going to go on.
Right up my street.
Yeah.
I probably should also add that there's probably there's someone for everyone, and there's not wrong with that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, God. If there weren't someone for everyone, I'd be single forever.
Make a good point. But anyway, yes, thank you both for coming on tonight's show, and we will hopefully do the show. Oh, and also thank you to Trystan for coming on the show. I didn't forget about you. But yeah, good luck in your future endeavours, whether it's on Eurosport TV and or wherever. And yeah, you've done well sticking through us. So 2 hours 20 minutes, not bad, I would say. But thank you anyway. And that's it. And we will end with a way we usually end by going off air.
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
I'm Ryan Vickers.
Hi, I'm Ben Curry.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Ray from the Kawasaki Racing Team, and you're listening to Motorsport Radio.